Hello and welcome to the first video regarding how to get analysing your data for the 2815 assignment. Firstly, what I'm going to do is show you that I'm going to put a dummy data set, so if you want to try and play along with this, along with the video, then you can do so. If you go to the Semester 2 practical workshops here, link on Canvas, scroll to the bottom, you'll see Chronbachs alpha data example. You can download that, open it up in SPSS, and you'll have this. Now, what I'm going to show you in this video are three things. Firstly, I'm going to show you how to recode your variables so that if any need to be reverse coded, you can do that first. That's the first thing you should do. Secondly, I'm going to show you how to calculate Chronbachs alpha for your personality measures. So I will give the example of one personality measure, and of course you would just repeat this process for the other two. And then lastly, I'm going to show you how to compute a total score for each person. So just to step back a bit, what we've got here is I've made a fictitious scale which I'm going to say have questions E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, E6, E7. Now, we could just call this an extraversion scale just so it's easier to understand where I'm going with this. So we're saying we've got a scale here with 7 questions. So in my variable view, I've got 7 variables, and in my data view, I've created some dummy data for 50 participants. Now, as you will probably have with your personality measures, chances are some of the questions will have been negatively phrased and some of them will have been positively phrased. The ones which have been negatively phrased will require reverse coding. This means the numbers will need swapping. So for example here, where I've got this scale, I've decided that E5, E6 and E7 need to be reverse coded. So what will happen is these numbers, instead of that being a 3, that will become a 6 or a 5. And this 1 will become a 7, and this 2 will become a 6, and so forth. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing you want to do is you want to click on transform, and you want to say recode into same variables. Now it's very important that I would suggest making a backup copy of your data file before doing this in case you make a mistake, and then you can go back to it. So do that first and then go through this process. So click on recode into same variables and you will get this window pop up. Now I only see the 7 questions here in my data set. You will have a lot more of those things, so you need to make sure you know which ones are which. However, I said I only want to change E5, E6 and E7. So I select all 3 of those and I transfer them across. I don't want to recode 1, 2, 3 and 4, so I leave them there. I then click on this old and new values button. What I now need to tell SPSS is how do I want to change the numbers. So I'm going to say to SPSS, whenever you see a 1, I want you to change it to a 7, and then you must click the add button, and then you will see it says 1 becomes 7. A 2 will become 6. A 3 will become 5. You should see a pattern emerging here. 4s will remain as 4s, but we still tell SPSS we want to do that. A 5 will become a 3. Oh, a 3, there we go. And click add. A 6 will become a 2. And a 7, lastly, will become a 1. So what you should do here, if you've got this right, is you should see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down there, and then 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 there. That would make sense. Now, if you've got a 5-point scale, it will look slightly different than that, but you get the idea. You click continue. Now, once I click OK, all of these 3 columns here are going to be overwritten with the new values that have been recoded. This is why I said make a copy, a separate backup copy, because if we'd made a mistake in here, then you can't revert back very easily to what you did. So if you noticed you'd made a mistake, at least you'd have a backup to start again. Okay, so we click OK, and then what will have happened is it's recoded those 3 variables. That's the first stage. So once I'm happy that I've done all of that, I now want to see if I can calculate the Chronbachs alpha. So this is the internal reliability of the scale. To do this, I will click on Analyze, and I will click on Scale, and then I will move across and click along Reliability Analysis. Now I want to select all of my variables and transfer them across. You can either do it one by one, or you can hold down Control and multi-select and put them across. So the model it's going to create is alpha, so that means Chronbachs alpha. You can give it a scale label if you want, so I'm going to say yes, this was Extraversion, so I know what it was. Then I need to click in the statistics button in the top right corner. So I want descriptives for the item and for the scale. When you're inventing your own scale, you would put this option on about scale if item deleted. We are not going to do that for your personality scales because we don't need to. These are validated scales already and we're not looking to revalidate them. If we click continue and then we click OK, we get our SPSS output. Now all this means is this tells us that there were 50 participants and all of them provided data. 100% of them provided data to every question. That's fine. If there were missing data, that would be reflected here. What we're really interested in, our main point of interest here, is this Chronbachs alpha score. So we've got 0.885. As you know, in general, we're looking for something of 0.7 or higher, so that's great. And then you can compare that with the published reliability for the scale. So if I had my Extraversion scale, I could go back and look at the original version. They might be saying they get a Chronbachs alpha typically of 0.83. So I can say, okay, well, I'm definitely doing as good as that. In fact, I'm doing slightly better than that in the current study. So that's how you do Chronbachs alpha. You just repeat that process for each of your personality scales. Now, you do not need to do Chronbachs alpha for your questions that you gave participants, asking them if they liked the music or the art or anything like that. So it's just for the personality scales so that you can report these. And you could report these either in the results or in the materials section where you've already reported the Chronbachs alphas for the scale. You could say the published alpha is 0.79 and the alpha in my scale was 0.885 based on the participants in the study. Something like that. Okay, so lastly then, all of this is great, but of course what we actually want for the next step, where we're going to do our analysis of all of our 6 variables and do our correlations, which I will do in a separate video, we need a total score for every participant on each of the personality variables, each of the personality scales. So the way we would do that, of course, is we would, for each person, we've got to add up their scores on questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and we need to create a new variable. So all we would do here is we go to transform, and then we do compute variable. The target variable I'm now going to call ext underscore total. That means Extraversion total. And my expression is I've got to give it the calculation for how to create that. So in this case, I can double click on that. I put a plus sign. I double click on question 2, put a plus sign, and I repeat that until I have done a plus sign after each and every question that I want to include in my total. Or you can make a mistake like that. If you make a mistake, you can just click in the edit box. So that should be E6. You can also type the variables in if you need to by hand, as long as they match exactly the syntax over here. So that should be fine now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all added together. I click OK. And if I look back at my data now, I can see that I've now got a new variable. And if I go into my variable view, I've got ext total. And that is the total score for Extraversion for all 50 of my participants. You will need to do something similar for your second and third personality variables, and you will need to do this for your genre liking total. So you'll have 3 of those, won't you? Because you had 3 different genres, and every person will contribute 1 total score for each of the genres. So every participant is going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total scores, 3 of which will be personality, and 3 of which will be their liking for genre 1, genre 2, and genre 3. Once you are at that stage, you are then ready to be able to conduct your correlation analysis. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.